Ida for starting a riot at Home Depot over a tiny door. Title, Aita for inciting a chaos at my local Home Depot. Content. Hello everyone. 2 decades ago, my spouse 24F and I, 25M, were in search of a new door for the nursery for our little ones. We specified that we wanted the door to measure 7 feet by 3 feet, flat at the bottom and shuttered at the top. Thus, we placed the custom order through Home Depot's site. And I took my son, Semi at that time, whom I'll call Harry, to collect it. We stood in the queue for roughly 46 minutes, and upon reaching the front, I provided the attendant with the details of the door we had requested. By now, hunger was creeping in, so my desire was simply to grab the door and head home. The Home Depot staff member, whom I'll refer to as Steve, brings out the door, and I take it back to my spouse. When we unveiled it together, we were shocked to discover that Home Depot had delivered the door in the exact opposite design of what we had specified. It was shuttered at the bottom and flat on top. I sighed in frustration, but tried to stay composed. After all, I'm a family man, and I'll do anything to keep my family satisfied. So we reordered the door, and the following week, my son and I returned to Home Depot to pick it up. This time we waited for over an hour in line. When it was finally our moment, I greeted Steve and requested my new door. I confirmed with him. Flat on the bottom, shuttered on top. He nodded, handed me the new door, and called the next customer. I returned home to my spouse, who was eagerly awaiting the door's arrival, as our daughter, 3F at the time, whom I'll call Bailey, had been without a door for weeks. We ripped open the package, only to find another error. This time the door was fully shuttered, rather than half shuttered. Honestly, who would want a door that's completely comprised of shutters? Now I was furious. But I maintained a brave face for my family, because that's the kind of guy I strive to be. We decided to give it one last attempt. Once again, we ordered the door online and meticulously verified everything. 7 feet by 3 feet, flat on the bottom and shuttered on top. Saturday came around, and this time we were determined not to leave Home Depot without our door. At this point, the order retrieval line had become our second home. We settled in and patiently awaited our turn. After approximately 5 hours, we finally approached the front, but Steve didn't seem happy to see us. Stay here, I instructed Harry, as I stepped bravely up to the counter. With all the patience I could summon, I kindly requested my door, a request that was now part of my weekend routine. Without uttering a word, Steve disappeared to the back and returned with a package. Initially, I was puzzled since this package was barely bigger than a bread box. Dumbfounded, I asked, "Is this a doorknob?" To my horror, Steve shook his head and replied, "No, sir. This is your order." Baffled, worried, and once more hangry, I opened the package, and indeed, there was the door. Flat at the bottom, shuttered at the top, and less than a foot in height. I glanced back at Steve and felt my voice start to rise. "Who do you think I am?" Malibu Barbie. "I demand to speak with your manager now." Expressionless, Steve trudged to the store's back and returned shortly with the manager, whom I'll call Buttface. "What in the world is this?" I asked for 7 by 3. Buttface replies, "That is 7 by 3, in inches." My ears began to redden. My face went numb. I could hear a ringing so loud that it drowned out any of Buttface's feeble attempts to resolve the issue. I lost my cool. Now Reddit, this is where I might have crossed a line. I lifted the door with 2 fingers and turned to face the crowd of around 40 people who had gathered behind me. Thankfully, my college radio days had prepared me for rallying a crowd or two, so if there's anything I know how to do, it's energize a group. I march one by one to each customer in line, holding the doll-sized door up to their faces, and asking questions like, "Do you think this is the door I ordered? And can I fit through this door?" Each person responded with a resounding, "No." I felt the surge of support swell, and prepared for one final rallying cry. I lifted Harry onto my shoulders to create one giant super figure. Standing on one of those orange utility buckets, and channeling my inner Gloria Steinem, I shouted, "Who here thinks I should pay for this door?" A chorus of boos erupted in favor of my cause. Local folks began retrieving pitchforks from the gardening aisle and torches from the patio section. At least, that's how I remember it. By this point, I had stirred up enough chaos that Buttface and Steve decided to involve security to quiet myself and my supporters. I put Harry down and braced myself for the impending confrontation. 2 rather burly men appeared from the back of the store, whom I'll refer to as Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. They each seized one of my justice-fueled hands, and escorted Harry and myself out of the store as pitchforks and torches were raised behind us. To this day, I remain unwelcome at that Home Depot, nor would I wish to return. I may have been escorted out, but at least I didn't have to pay for that ridiculous excuse of a door. So Reddit, ATA for inciting a riot at my local Home Depot?